And then I hear right after, yeah, and another glass of water goes in my face.
Welcome to my thoughtful ramblings, where we'll talk about all sorts of things, getting joy from what each new day brings. My thoughtful ramblings.
Hey guys, how you doing today? This is Michelle. Welcome back to Thoughtful Ramblings. I'm so glad you guys keep coming back, and that's pretty great. Thanks a lot. I appreciate you, and I hope you appreciate me, because that's what it's all about. Yeah. Don't mind me. I don't know. Sometimes I just get really weird for no reason. I just started this new job. 50, by the way. Number 50 I'm on. And it's like a younger kind of a crowd. And what I kind of come to notice as I'm getting older, younger people aren't as socially well adjusted as maybe people my age. I'm going to adjust this microphone. I hope you guys are okay with that. Sorry, Sam. I know this is probably killing you. Sam's my producer. Remember? I told you. So now if it's really, amateur, we have someone to pin it on besides me, which is awesome. Thanks, Sam. So yeah, anyway, it just, and I get really weird sometimes when especially if I feel a little awkward, I'm like, oh, that'll break the ice, but not with everyone. Some people, it makes them even more like, oh, like, what is her deal? So whatever. I hope you guys aren't like that though. Maybe I don't know. Whatever. So anyway, today's episode is you can get kicked out of church. You ready? Yes, you can. You can love God, love Jesus, and be asked to leave a place of worship. It happens, folks. I remember working at my old church. Literally, I think I've told you how we all worked while we were there. And I remember working at the other church, serving, if you will, and I worked with the youth there. That was something I really loved. Always loved kids. Usually that really awkward age, I always gravitate towards. Oh, maybe that's why, because I get really awkward and goofy and like a 12-year-old girl, and that's probably why I connect with them so well. But not only that, when I was right around 12 was when I began drinking, smoking pot, smoking banana peels sprayed with Fantastic. Oh, I wish I was kidding, but I'm not. Little things like that. So, but that was a moment. Like I really look back and see myself at a crossroads. Literally looking at two roads, which one I should take, and I feel that's why God kind of put that age group on my heart, because like, no, honey, that road's really, really, really bad. And these are some of the things that can happen on that road. But this road I started taking recently, and it's really, really good. So I think that's why God did that for me. Because it's super edifying working with younger kids. And that was one of the serve teams I loved being on, was because of the kids, not because of the team, but because of those kids. I really loved them. But anyway, one of the younger girls that was there, super shy kid. I don't know if I should even use her name. I won't. I'll just say this young lady, I loved her to death. And I really took a liking to her parents too, which were, by the way, the two that came to visit me in the hospital with my kidley. And they had come to pick up their daughter from youth group, or like youth class at the time. And, I was in the doorway talking to him, and I was saying to the wife, I'm like, we get along so great. It would be so awesome to have you on this team. You're so sweet and nice and organized and adorable, and everybody likes you, and you'd be so great on this. And she's like, no, I'm really burnt out. We got so hurt from our last church. I was like, what? Who gets hurt from a church? Does that even happen? Yes. Yes is the answer, and yes again. So I let it be, but I never understood. Well, I understood it years later once I got kicked out of church, but I didn't understand it at the time because it was always such a place of, filling us. And although we were super busy and things weren't really going that great, these people were our family. These were our friends. These were people my kids grew up with. And we're all learning about the Lord together. And it was really exciting. And the music was amazing. And the worship was real. And the prayer touched the hem of his garment. And it was awesome. And the four of us had all clicked in. It's like like when a skier kind of clicks their little ski on their boot. Like that's like what I'm seeing in my head, like that click, and that was, we were all in place and we all had our jobs and we all felt like this was our home and our family, and it was great. And but those words kind of rattled around in my head and my heart for a long time. It was like, oh, poor thing. Poor thing. Getting hurt by a church. I just didn't get it. Well, again, it all kind of stuck with me. And as I was coming back from my kidney thing and things were starting to get a little weird with some of my, co-parishioners, I was like, all right, we had a big cookout coming up at the pastor's house. And I was like, all right, this will be great. This will kind of be like, we can not air our grievances, if you will, but, make sure that everything's cool and just kind of start afresh. Because I felt like something was off and I wanted to, to address it and make everything okay, because it just didn't feel right. Something didn't feel right. Well, we're at the cookout. We're all having fun. And I'm sitting next to my girlfriend, the one that said she had gotten hurt by a church before. What should I call her? I'll call her Joy. Isn't that right? Adorable, because she's full of joy and she's awesome like Joy. And I love her like I love Joy. And so me and Joy are sitting next to each other. And what I love about Joy is I can be myself. I don't have to put on this, this, what's that? The invisibility cloak and kind of morph into whatever surroundings or whatever I need to be at that time. I can just be myself and not have to worry if a swear flies out of my mouth, or if I, say something that might be a little off, or, I could just be myself. I think everyone needs a person like Joy. So me and Joy were sitting and talking, and we were talking about, I was talking about my friend Mary, who had this little Chihuahua dog, and I didn't get it. All right, I get it now because I have my little fluffy nut, but I didn't get it then. And this dog didn't have the use of his back legs, so she was cleaning up pee and poop everywhere and anywhere. She finally got this dog a little diaper. And she had brought the dog to this church thing we had, and she had him in a little baby carriage, and she's pushing him around, which is fine. And that's not what I was making fun of. I was making fun of the bonnet and the little sundress to match that she had the dog in. Now I think it's adorable. I'm dressing up my dog all over the place. I'm Mary now. I'm okay with that. I'm okay. But at the time, I was making fun of her, and we're laughing, because I'm just being a jerk and kind of running with it, and Joy's laughing. And then, where all the women were on one side of the, I don't know why this always has to be the way, but at church, for some reason, there's like women's groups and men's groups, and they sometimes, and in this particular scenario, they gravitate towards each other. And all the guys are standing over at the barbecue grills, and all the women are sitting in this big circle and just kind of having a huge conversation. There's probably about 15 of us, 12, 15 of us. And it's great. And anyway, I'm having my little sidebar conversation with Joy about Mary's dog and the bonnet and the carriage and the diaper and I'm like, and then from across the circle, I hear, Michelle. And I look up and a glass of water gets thrown in my face. And I sat in disbelief, like, what just happened? And then I hear right after, yeah! And another glass of water goes in my face. That's 2 glasses of water in my face. Granted, I love Mary. I wasn't saying I love Mary's heart. I just thought the bonnet was a little much, and it was. It really was. But I love Mary. I love her. And it was adorable. And she's adorable. And that was like the whole underlying theme. There was no like meanness or mean spirit. Yeah, I get caught up in, and when I'm making someone laugh, I can kind of keep going and going and going to kind of, stretch it out. Maybe I was doing that a little bit. But anyway, there was nothing mean about Mary and that. And but anyway, so I have the 2 glasses of water thrown at me, and I can still feel it, the dripping off my hair onto my glasses, onto my cheek, in total disbelief. And I look up, and all the women are laughing. They're all laughing. And I'm like, I'm mortified. Like, what do I do? What do I do? And I sat down and I looked over at Joy, and Joy was like, what was that? I felt like I was back in first grade with all the kids. Ha ha ha, your underwear's sticking out of your pants. Like, really, jerks? Just tell me and I'll fix it, instead of all standing around pointing and laughing. But that didn't really happen. But I'm just saying, that's how kids are. And that's, I got bullied and blah, 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 blah. Poor me. But anyway, it was happening again. Only this time it was all my friends. It was humiliating. And and the woman who threw the first glass at me says, "Are you offended?" And I said, "Yeah, I am." She said, "Well, if you're offended, then I'm sorry." I'm like, that's probably the crappiest, I didn't say it, but I'm thinking, that's probably the crappiest apology I've ever heard, right? So unapologetic. She didn't care. So I was just like, okay, fair enough. And as she's saying that, they're coming out with this big giant thing of iced tea that they're going to put in like the little tent where they had all the food. They're walking right behind those women. And I'm looking at that iced tea and I'm like, I'm going to dump that over their heads. I'm going to dump that over their heads when they least expect it. And I'm going to do it. And I couldn't even finish the thought. And this is how you know it's God. Be still. Let them look like the fools. Okay. All right. So I sat there and I barely said much the rest of the time there. Except for, can we get going? Can we get going? Can we get going? Can we get going? My husband and all his conversations with all his friends, I kind of went over, hung out with the guys a little bit more, and then we headed out of there. And I didn't want my husband to know what had happened because I knew he'd lose it. He didn't really like those particular women, and he would have lost it. My kids were so knit into the fabric of this church, into the fabric of those youth groups that they were a part of, and serving, and the worship team, and the kids and the families, and my kids were like their kids, and there was so much there. And so I kept my mouth shut. I sat still, and we went to Joy's house. And Joy has this husband. Oh, I just love him so much too. They're probably the whole reason. Now that I look back, they're probably the whole reason we were even at that God-forsaken place. I'm just kidding. I was not. Don't quote me on that. But you don't know the name of the church anyway, so who really cares? But anyway, I didn't mean that, and in Jesus' name, I'm sorry, God. But yeah, so we go over their house a couple nights later, and Joy's husband comes out of the back, and he says, I'm going to call him Mac. And Mac says, hey, Michelle, I am so impressed by you. And I'm like, you are? Why? you know? And he says, I can't believe you didn't do anything, that you just literally sat there and let them like throw water in your face and you did nothing. Like that scripture, turn the other cheek. Like, you did that. I'm really proud of you. That's huge. And my husband says, what? And I was like, uh-oh. And I said, I didn't want to tell you because I thought you'd get upset with me, or with them rather, not with me, but I thought you'd get upset with them, and I didn't. Things were already getting a little weird anyway, and I didn't want to add fuel to the fire. Luckily, he understood that, and it was all good, but he was like, I can't believe they did that. I can't believe they did that. Well, I'm like, you know what, though? This is what God told me, and this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to be still about this. I'm going to look to the word in what I should do about this, because it was embarrassing. It was like, how do I show my face at these leadership things again? Like, I'm a leader, and they're throwing water in my face. Like, what the heck is that? So again, be still. So I just kept being still. And we went to church on Sunday, and people started coming up. I can't believe you did nothing when they threw water in your face. People were talking about it, right? I was like, uh-oh, this isn't good. Maybe they just had a lapse in judgment. People do stupid crap all the time. I know I do. You've heard about some of it. But, I was just trying to be good about it. But when all the people started talking about it, I thought, okay, maybe I need to tell the leadership, like tell my leadership that I trust and know and love. And so I told them, like, people are talking about this, they're coming up to me, and blah, 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 blah. So they decide to have a meeting. Okay. So we have a meeting, but it was just Eric and I, Joy and Mac, and another couple that weren't even like part of it. I don't even know why they were there, honestly. But we got accused in that meeting. We got accused of gossiping against the leadership, spreading rumors, and all kinds of other stuff. And don't get me wrong, I was not in a good headspace, because I could feel like, like people were treating me differently, and crying aloud, I just had 2 glasses of water thrown in my face too, to boot, and I'm like, okay, this isn't just in my head anymore. Because that first thing that happened with the way the woman was all like jealous and weird, I was like, that's a little weird, but maybe it's in my head. But now it was like not in my head. It was like actually physically manifesting, like no, they're targeting me in a sense. So Eric and I left this meeting. My husband was pissed. He stood up and he said, how dare you accuse my wife? They threw water in her face, and now you're accusing us of ... And from that moment, my husband and myself stepped down from every ministry we were serving. Everything we were doing. And we would just go, now becoming just regular church attendees, if you will. Started attending church, and I'll never forget this one specific day walking into the sanctuary, and I said, and one of the women I was close to, the one that was in the meeting, not Joy, the other one, I'll call her Jan, and Jan was like, I can't believe you keep coming. I can't believe you keep coming back. And I felt like I wasn't released because my kids were so invested there. Like I needed to do this for them. And that Sunday as well, my daughter was she was on the worship team, so she was going to be leading worship. And I looked at her and I said, honestly, the only reason I'm here right now is to have my daughter lead me to the throne room of God. And that's that. And we walked in the sanctuary, played worship. They passed around the thing for the tithes and the offering. After the 15-minute spiel as to why that was so important and so on. And it is important. It is. I'm not diminishing that. But when this time when it went by us in our chairs, I got a conviction. I was sickened holding it. I didn't want to touch it. I didn't want it near me. It went by me, and I handed it to my husband, and I said, do whatever you want. Put in whatever you want. And that was like the first time that ever happened. I was always, I don't want to brag, but, a generous giver. I like to think of myself as. And it was gross. It just had this taken on this new thing. Anyway, we yeah, it's some stories, like when you think of, you're like, wow, it doesn't even like seem like that could really happen. Well, it did. The women that threw the water in my face, their children started spreading rumors about my daughter and got her kicked off the worship team that day. My daughter was asked to step down for 3 months that day. That I said the only reason I'm here is to have my daughter lead me to the throne room of God. So I was like, wow, okay. And they had like youth that night, and that Sam got asked to step down, and I'm like, are you sure you want to go? You feeling up to this? She's like, yeah, I want to go to youth. Oh, I love youth. Oh, like, all right, So I bring my kids to youth, and I get a text from Sam. Please pick me up now. That didn't happen. That never happened. Never, ever, ever. And like it was almost like a bat signal went up, like over Fall River. Oh, did I just mention Fall River? That's okay. There's tons of churches in Fall River. And what Fall River am I even talking about? I don't know. Aren't there like 30,000 of them? I think so. Anyway, it was like a bat signal went up over Fall River. And I was like, I'm like, this isn't good. This isn't good. I gotta go get her. I gotta go get her. I gotta go get her. So Eric's like, all right, let's go. Let's go pick her up. So we go to the church. Pardon my sniffing. It's allergy season, by the way. So we go to pick her up at church, and I text her, and I'm like, all right, we're here. We're right out front. And she's like, I can't. Like, what do you mean you can't? I can't. Say what? Yes, you can. Like, honey, just wait right here. So I get up out of the car and I go walking into the church, and there's one of those same circles of women all sitting around. Only this time, it was all the youth kids and the leadership that threw the water in my face and so on, and laughed about it and whatever. And they were all sitting around this circle, and there's my daughter. Her eyes as big as saucers. I can tell she's holding back the tears. My daughter doesn't like to cry. That's I don't think anyone likes to cry. But she does everything in her power not to. And I could see it all over her. And I'm like, hey, what's going on here? Nothing. We'll be done talking in just a minute. And I said, well, if you're talking to my daughter, I can be here too. No, you can't. Yes, I can. She's not 18, and I'm not leaving. As a matter of fact, Sam, grab your bags. We're leaving. We're not done talking. I looked at them. I said, oh, yeah, you are. You're so done talking to her. I said, Sam, get your bags. We are leaving. Sam obviously saw that who she really needed to be afraid of in that moment. And it was none of them. It was me. If she didn't get her butt out of that situation and into my car in that moment. So come to find out, they were all accusing Sam of rumors and gossip, which was basically the same flavor that they were accusing me and my husband of. I was livid. I wrote a text about how I was not okay. Those texts. I wasn't okay with them talking to my daughter without me there. I wasn't okay with what they were saying to her. I wasn't okay with how they kind of infiltrated the youth group to use it as a judge and jury session without me there, without my knowledge and my consent. I was furious, furious. So I wrote it all out in this beautifully constructed text, you know. And I get a text back, Michelle, is this you? Yeah, yeah, it's me. And I'm mad. I am very mad, and I believe I have the right to be, blah, blah, blah. Couple of days later, my son's in track, He just started track, or he's in winter track. I don't know. He's in one of those track things. But he needed these special pants for track. So we're, went calling all over the place. And finally, there's this store in Warwick, Rhode Island that we go to. And while we're there, we're trying Chick-fil-A. And, I was like, oh, this will be fun. It'll be a fun night out. It's Christmas time. So we go to the Warwick Mall, and then we go to Chick-fil-A after we hadn't tried it yet. We were really excited. And it was like all Christmassy, and it was just the four of us, and we were away from everything. And I know being like, we weren't like away. We were legit in Warwick, Rhode Island, which was like 45-minute drive. But it felt like we were away. We were away from it all for a night. And we were all together again, which was not always a consistent theme in our home because we were all in so many different ministries and doing so many different things all the time. So it was really nice. And we were just like really Christmassy. And we come home and was sitting on the couch and looking at the tree and just kind of like, you know what? This is what it's all about. This is really nice. And then the phone rang. And it was our pastor, our little group pastor, because there was like different branches of the church. It was like our branch pastor. What's the campus pastor? And Sam told me I could ask him stuff while I'm recording in case they didn't know something, and he'd look it up for me super quick. So that's really dope. But so this campus pastor, and anyway, he calls, and Eric's on the phone with him, and I see Eric's countenance drop. I'm like, uh-oh. And so then Eric says, so let me get this straight. We're not welcome at church anymore? Yes, it would be best if you and your family found someplace else to worship. So we hang up the phone, and Eric, we told Eric and Sam, well, he told all of us, and Sam was devastated. We all were like, even though there was like these weird little bumps and things going on, they was still our family. Not everyone threw water in my face. Not everyone was a jerk all of a sudden. Like it was just like these few people that kind of climbed their way like right up underneath the leadership. And it was devastating. And my daughter went into her room and I'm sure cried. But my son said, no. I have youth this Saturday. He used to go out every Saturday. All the youth guys would go out to breakfast. And it was like this big thing he did. And the youth leader would go around and pick them all up. And they'd all go out and have breakfast. And he's like, I'm going Saturday morning to breakfast, Mama. I'm going. And I was like, oh, all right, well, prepare your heart, prepare your mind, but this could happen again, just be aware of it, Eric, but I don't want to not tell him he can go. You know what I mean? Like he is 14 years old, like that crossroads in life. You know what I mean? And this devastating crack just happened that could shoot him one way or another, And as a mom, you're worried, like, oh no, this could be the thing that sends him hating all of it, you know, the people, the God, the everything. So I told him, I said, okay, honey, you can go on your breakfast on Saturday. I'm not going to stop you, but I just want you to be aware that this could happen. Okay, yeah, well, like almost like, oh, it's not going to happen to me kind of mentality. 14-year-old kid, he doesn't know. So we Saturday morning comes, you know, his youth leader pulls up in the driveway. Eric and him drive away. Eric came home, and he couldn't even look up. He's just like, you're right. You were right. Man, I'll forgive them. I'll forgive those women who threw the water in my face all day. Ask me to leave your church. I love you. I forgive you. And literally, my husband and I went out to dinner with the pastor and his wife very recently, and it is all forgiven, and it is beautiful, and there is beauty from ashes. But that was the one, that kid that hurt my kid. that kid was the kid that was the struggle of my forgiveness towards anybody. But luckily, we ended up heading to a new church, and after the fact, and we were able to pick ourselves up and move on and be awesome. I don't want you to think that's the end all be all. Although I do like to leave you hanging. It is the end of our time, and I will kind of continue how like that whole crash and burn out of those ashes. God did something so amazing. So yeah. I guess the next I didn't have an episode name written out for the next one, but man, beauty from ashes. Absolutely. So stay tuned next week to hear Beauty from Ashes. I love you guys. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for being a part of my craziness. Thank you guys. I love you all so much. Have a great rest of your day. Bye. Ba-dum-bum.